Hello there, and welcome back to the New York Virtual Photo Salon. I'm Lavon Hall, your host for this event. Thank you for tuning in last time. I hope you enjoyed the story behind the creativity. But if you haven't seen last week's episode and the rest of our awesome speakers, click on the links in the description. Also, leave us comments, subscribe, and like this channel. Now sit back and enjoy tonight's multi-talented photographer, Richard Louissaint. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Richard Louissaint. I am a New York native who was born in Montreal, Canada. I've been here for most of my life. I am a former music journalist turned photographer and filmmaker. I've been at this for about 20 years and I continue to work as a photographer doing portraiture and documentary work, and as a filmmaker and documentarian doing short films. I'm also a cinematographer as well, and I have had my work play at several film festivals. And so today I'm going to share with you the work I started doing when New York was under lockdown at the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak. Because New York City was one of the spaces where the numbers were going up a lot, and we were dealing with a large number of cases, and hospitals were overloaded with cases. And so in the middle of March, I basically was at home in Queens, basically, and with nothing to do really. My part-time job was in limbo, and I was trying to figure out my routine. And I had no way to photograph anything because there was no jobs. All the jobs got postponed or were canceled, and nobody knew what was going to happen. So at the end of March, I had a camera with Wi-Fi, and I was like, let me use the app on my phone since it allowed for remote shooting. I decided to start a project and do like an examination of how I was feeling through self-portraits. And so the self-portrait project began. I mean, the first time I did it, I just was experimenting with it. So I was shooting outside in front of the house that I live in. And I just was trying to create moody photos with, as you can see, I'm sitting on the front stoop, and there's like these iron bars. And I guess I was trying to convey this feeling of like being trapped, almost like I was in a prison because we have this invisible enemy. And so a lot of these initial pictures are just kind of like creating a sense of like distance and loneliness, and starting to like work with layers and adding multiple versions of myself in a frame. And this was the first in the series. So there's a sense of here. It was an overcast day, and then started to like randomly start to shoot. When I felt like shooting, I would just like set up the camera on a tripod and like create these poses. So I considered this series 2. This was a very short and simple one that I shot in the backyard, because it's another space that I was spending a lot of my time in during the springtime. So these are very short. These were not as involved as the first set of photos. Then at some point I was like, I needed to create some connection. So I started to send out cards and letters to friends of mine, physically mailing them out to people, because I wanted to have some sort of connection. And this is the section where I sort of just documented me writing some of the letters and sort of the vibe I was in. And yeah, let's see. And then next series was kind of like showing part of my routine was to go out and run. I was doing it 3 times a week to give myself something physical to do, and also it was good to keep my mind off of things. But this particular series was when I started to continue to play with like compositing and having different versions of myself, almost like I'm comforting myself in with some of these images. So it's like all these different versions of myself. And you could see my running outfit in this particular set of photos. And this was born out of this particular series was, I consider it my moodiest and my most creative light-wise, because it's just me in my bedroom with one light hitting my face and showing off some of the masks I started to purchase and collect, because that's become a thing now where, you know, you have to be fashionable with the masks because we're going to be wearing them for an unforeseeable future. So this was inspired by some virtual editing I was doing for a show, and somebody asked me about how would you film yourself with this particular look, and I just decided to just try it out because I figured I know how to do this before. So I just had an LED light hitting me and kind of dimmed it and did several shots of me. As you can see, I have one of my masks, which is like this green printed mask, and I have this blue printed mask. I definitely have like more masks now. Now we're getting to the point where I don't know if this was around May, but I think I was actually starting to actually go out and take drives and getting to see the person I'm with. At this point, I believe we had started to do some social distancing. So there was more opportunities to like breathe, because I think things were calming down number-wise in New York. And this is like the living room of my parents' home, where a lot of TV watching happens. There's the reclining chair, and this is different positions that I tend to be in when I'm in that room, which is why the 3 versions of me, like either I'm looking out the windows, or I'm sitting on the sofa, or the reclining chair, which has a table there and my thermos. And actually, the shirt I'm wearing in this particular series is very important, because this was the first client of mine who reached out, and they're a performance nonprofit that work with teen girls and young women of color called Vibe. And this was very important because they were the first people to give me freelance work during the quarantining period in New York. And here we have, this is at a point where I think it felt organically time to just stop doing the self-portraits, because other things were happening, and I think I expressed everything that I needed to express at that point. And I just remember one day noticing how the sun hits the front of the house of where the living room is, and the way that light just hits because of the way the blinds are when they open up. So I just saw all these like interesting frames and patterns. So I just decided to just photograph myself taking in those patterns and light. At this point, I was in a better place, but I was still, like most people, I was still very like, not like necessarily happy or like relaxed. Just, I think at that point, I just had accepted the space we were in. And this is how it's going to be. Hopefully, this was interesting, and thank you for checking out my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard, for sharing your visual journey during quarantine. I'm sure we've all gone through that phase in the beginning of what to do now. Some of us are probably still trying to figure that out. Hopefully, you're not feeling so isolated any longer. I hope everyone enjoyed the story. Please give it a thumbs up, leave comments, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you all for tuning in the New York Virtual Photo Salon Committee. I'm Lavon Hall, and we'll see you next time with some more exciting speakers.